Welcome to long-form content of Tech Bytes and News. This is a compilation on latest news and articles featured on Hacker News. You can find the original links of articles in the description. Please like and subscribe to support future content. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating GitHub project, Surface Stable Fractal Dithering. It's a game changer in 3D graphics, you know?
Yeah, I've been looking at this too. The core idea, dots sticking to surfaces even as they move, sounds incredibly cool. How does it actually work?
Exactly. It's all about dynamically adding and removing dots to maintain consistent dot size and spacing on the screen. Imagine a surface moving closer. The algorithm cleverly adds more dots to keep the visual density the same. It's not just about the visual effect, but the clever algorithm behind it.
So it's not a simple texture mapping trick? This is some serious shader magic, right?
Absolutely. The implementation is in shaders, specifically Dither3 dinclude.cg Inc., which is then used by several other shaders like Dither3 dopaque.shader and Dither3 dcutout.shader for different rendering needs. It's all very well organized. And there's even a Unity example project included, tested on both 2019.4 and 2022.3.
That's impressive. What about customization? Can you adjust the look of the dithering?
Oh yeah, tons of control. There are parameters for exposure, offset, dot scale, size variability, even a stretch smoothness setting. You can choose between a Bayer style or halftone style dithering, and there are global options like radial compensation for perspective cameras. It's incredibly versatile.
Radial compensation? That sounds crucial for maintaining stability in 3D scenes, especially with rotating cameras. What happens if you disable it?
Well, without it, the dots might appear uneven or distorted as the camera moves, especially at the edges of the screen. It's a key feature for maintaining that surface stable effect. There's also a quantize layers option, disabling, that can lead to dots abruptly changing size as they appear or disappear.
Interesting. So it's not perfect, but the trade-offs seem worth it for the visual quality. What about the assets provided? Are they just shaders or are there textures too?
Both. There are several 3D textures, Dither 3D 1x1, asset, Dither 3D 2x2, asset, etc., with varying dot densities. But get this, they even include a script, Dither 3D TextureMaker.cs, to generate these textures from scratch. Plus, it creates corresponding PNGs for easier inspection. Pretty neat, huh?
That's really thoughtful of the developer. Makes it easy to experiment and understand the underlying process. And what about the license? Is it open source?
Yes, it's under the Mozilla Public License 2.0. So, you can use it in commercial projects, but any modifications you make need to be shared back with the community. It's a fair and collaborative approach.
A great balance between open source principles and allowing commercial use. This surface-stable fractal dithering looks like a significant contribution to the 3D graphics community. Thanks for breaking it down.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into CVE 2024 to 54507, a fascinating kernel vulnerability in Apple's XNU. It's a really sus situation, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. A kernel vulnerability is always serious, but this one, with its clever use of SYSCTLS, is particularly interesting. So what's the core issue?
The problem lies within the sysglued plog port handler. It's a SYSCTLPROC, meaning it uses a custom handler instead of the standard boilerplate for managing kernel variables. The vulnerability stems from a simple, yet devastating, type confusion.
Type confusion? Explain that a bit more.
Sure. The handler incorrectly reads AUINT16_T, 2 bytes, as an int, 4 bytes. This leads to an out-of-bounds read, grabbing 2 extra bytes of memory. Even though there's a check to prevent overwriting, the overread happens before the check. Sneaky!
So it's reading beyond the allocated memory for the variable. That's a classic buffer overflow type issue, but a bit more subtle. What's the impact?
Exactly. The impact is information leakage. By reading from net.net.udp.log.remote port excluded, the last sysctl in the sequence, we can leak 2 bytes of adjacent memory. What those 2 bytes contain depends entirely on the linker's placement of code and data in the kernel.
Interesting. So it's not a guaranteed data leak, but a potential one. The location of the leaked data is unpredictable?
Precisely. It could be another sysctl, padding bytes, or anything really. The author even tested it on a self-compiled kernel and a kernel from the KDK, getting different results. It's a bit of a lottery.
So the fix is straightforward, right? Just change the read to use the correct type?
Yeah, the proposed fix is incredibly simple. Change int new value equals int OIDP to oidarg1 to int new value equals uint16t OIDP to OID underscore arg1. A single line of code fixes a potentially serious vulnerability. It highlights how easily these things can happen.
It really does. It's a great example of how even seemingly minor coding errors in the kernel can have significant security implications. And the fact that it was found using an address sanitizer is also noteworthy.
Absolutely. The use of address sanitizers during development is crucial for catching these kinds of subtle bugs. This whole thing is a great reminder of the importance of careful memory management, especially in kernel programming. It's a wild world out there.
Indeed. Thanks for breaking down this fascinating vulnerability for us. It's a great case study for anyone interested in kernel security.
My pleasure. And remember, folks, always keep your systems updated. That's all for Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and stay safe out there. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a truly unsettling piece from Nature. Never seen anything like this. Trump's team halts NIH meetings and travel. It's a bombshell, folks. Seriously.
A bombshell indeed. So what's the core issue here? Is it just about travel restrictions, or is there something bigger at play?
It's much bigger than just travel. The Trump administration has completely halted research grant reviews at the NIH, the largest public funder of biomedical research globally. Unprecedented. They've also canceled travel and training for scientists.
Wow. That's a huge disruption. How long is this shutdown supposed to last?
It's supposed to last until at least February 1st. But the article points out that while short pauses happen during administrative transitions, this is unprecedented in its scope and duration. We're talking about freezing 80% of the NIH's $47 billion budget.
80%? That's catastrophic. What's the impact on researchers?
Devastating. The article quotes Carol Labone, a developmental biologist, saying she's never seen anything like this. The uncertainty is particularly harmful to early career researchers who might lose funding, jobs, or miss crucial research milestones. It's a domino effect of potential career derailments.
And it's not just the funding freeze, right? There's something about website changes too?
Exactly. Apparently the Trump team has deleted web pages related to diversity programs and diversity-related grants. The article doesn't go into detail on the why, but it adds another layer of concern and uncertainty. It raises questions about the administration's priorities and potential biases.
That's deeply troubling. It suggests a potential shift away from inclusive research practices. I see. So what's the overall sentiment among researchers?
Anxiety, confusion, and a lot of anger. The article highlights several researchers expressing their concerns on platforms like X and Bluetexty. One emergency medicine physician, Esther Chow, described the canceled study section as a setback for potentially groundbreaking research. The feeling is that real lives and real progress are being put on hold.
And Harold Varmus, a former NIH director, is quoted as saying this pause is counter to the agency's mission. He's right, isn't he? The NIH is funded by Congress, so this action directly challenges the will of Congress.
Absolutely. It's not just about the science, it's about the political implications. This isn't just a bureaucratic hiccup. It's a potential systemic attack on scientific progress and funding. It's a very serious situation.
It certainly is. This whole situation underscores the fragility of scientific funding and the importance of advocating for stable, consistent support for research. It's a wake-up call.
Indeed, and that's why this article is so important. It highlights the real-world consequences of political decisions on scientific progress. Thank you for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Goodbye, and stay informed.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of the Derveni Papyrus. It's a real game changer, you know? Absolutely mind-blowing.
I'm all ears. What makes it so significant? Is it just the age?
The age is a huge part of it, dating back to around 340 BC, making it Europe's oldest surviving manuscript. Can you believe it? But it's not just the age, it's the content. It's a philosophical commentary on an Orphic poem, a theogony, detailing the birth of the gods. Incredible stuff.
An Orphic poem? So it's religious then. I'm intrigued.
Exactly. It's a blend of religious and philosophical thought, a real melting pot of ideas. The commentary interprets the poem allegorically, suggesting the stories aren't literal but symbolic. It's fascinating how they approach these myths.
So the author wasn't just recounting the myths, they were analyzing them? That's a very sophisticated approach.
Precisely. It shows a level of intellectual sophistication that's remarkable for the time, and the poem itself, originally from the late 5th century BC, is quoted within the commentary. The papyrus was found in a tomb, charred from a funeral pyre, which is why it's so fragmented.
Charred, you say? Wow, that's dramatic. So how did they even manage to reconstruct it?
That's where the real detective work comes in. It's made up of 266 fragments, a real jigsaw puzzle, and it took decades to piece together. Modern multispectral imaging techniques played a crucial role in the recent publication of the full text.
Multispectral imaging, huh? That's cutting-edge technology even today. I imagine the process was incredibly painstaking.
Absolutely. And the text itself is written in a mix of ancient Greek dialects, Attic, Ionic, and even some Doric forms. It adds another layer of complexity to the reconstruction.
A linguistic puzzle on top of a philosophical and religious one. So what about the content itself? What kind of things does it discuss besides the theogony?
Well, the earlier parts, which are less well preserved, discuss occult ritual practices, sacrifices, how to deal with troublesome spirits, and the beliefs of the Magi. There are even quotations from Heraclitus and, controversially, Parmenides. It's a treasure trove of information about ancient Greek beliefs and practices.
Amazing! So it's not just a religious text, but a historical document as well, offering insights into the beliefs and practices of the time. It's truly remarkable.
Exactly. And it's recognized by UNESCO as the oldest known European book, a testament to its historical significance. It's a window into a world that's both familiar and utterly alien to us. A truly remarkable discovery.
I completely agree. It's a fascinating glimpse into the past, and the challenges involved in its reconstruction are just as impressive as the content itself. Thanks for sharing this incredible story.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Join us again tomorrow for another fascinating deep dive into the world of technology and history. Bye. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a really exciting open-source project, the AI Video Starter Kit. It's a game-changer, folks.
I'm already buzzing with anticipation. What makes this kit so special? Is it, like, magic or something?
Almost. It leverages the power of AI models to create videos directly in your browser. No need for complex server-side setups or expensive software. Think of it as a video production studio, but entirely in your web browser.
Wow, that's impressive. So, which AI models are we talking about here?
They're using several cutting-edge models via Fal.ai. We've got Minimax for video generation, Hunyuan for visual synthesis, and LTX for video manipulation. It's a pretty comprehensive suite.
That's a powerful combination. But how does it handle the processing? Browser performance can be a bottleneck for video editing, right?
That's where Remotion comes in. It's a fantastic library for video processing in the browser. Plus, they're using IndexedDB for storage, so no cloud database is needed. It's all client-side, which is amazing for privacy and speed.
I see. So it's not just about the AI, it's about the clever architecture of the whole kit. What about the user experience? Is it easy to use?
Absolutely. They've built a user-friendly interface with ready-to-use components. It supports multi-clip composition, audio integration, voiceovers, and even extended video durations. It's surprisingly feature-rich.
That sounds incredible. But, I'm a little skeptical about the no-cloud database claim. Surely managing large video files client-side will be a challenge?
That's a valid point. While it's true that large video files could strain browser resources, the use of IndexedDB and efficient processing techniques likely mitigates this. They've clearly optimized for performance. The project has over 800 stars on GitHub, so it's clearly resonating with developers.
True, the popularity speaks volumes. What about the tech stack? Anything particularly interesting there?
Besides the AI models and Remotion, they're using Next.js, which is a fantastic React framework, making the development process much smoother. And they're using Vercel for deployment, which is super convenient.
Next, JS and Vercel. A winning combination. So if I want to get started, what's the process?
It's straightforward. Clone the repo, install dependencies, set up your environment variables, and run the dev server. The whole process is clearly documented in their re-ADME. They even provide instructions for different package managers.
Fantastic! This sounds like a must-have tool for anyone working with AI video. Thanks for highlighting this project.
My pleasure. This AI Video Starter Kit is a testament to the power of open-source collaboration and the incredible advancements in AI video technology. Remember to check out the GitHub repo for more details and to contribute if you're so inclined. And that's all the time we have for today. Goodbye and happy coding.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into Tech4T, a social network specifically designed for the trans and gender non-conforming community. It's a really interesting space, and I think we'll find some fascinating insights. It's text-based, minimalist, and completely free.
That sounds intriguing. A minimalist, text-based social network? In today's world of flashy visuals and complex algorithms, that's a refreshing approach. What makes it unique, besides its simplicity?
Exactly. The focus is entirely on community and connection within the trans and gender nonconforming community. It's a safe space, a place where people can express themselves authentically without fear of judgment.
I see. So it's not just about the tech, it's about the community it fosters. Looking at some recent posts, it seems like the atmosphere is quite open and, varied. Some posts are deeply personal, others are humorous, and some are just quirky.
Absolutely. The posts reflect the diversity of experiences within the community. You have everything from someone sharing their anxieties about coming out to their mom, to someone celebrating their body positivity, to someone sharing a rather explicit video. It's a real mix.
It's interesting how such a seemingly simple platform can facilitate such a wide range of emotions and expressions. It speaks to the power of community, doesn't it? But I'm a little concerned about the potential for, vulnerability. Is there any moderation or safety measures in place?
That's a valid concern. While the platform itself is minimalist, the creator, at Loonsongs, actively encourages users to prioritize online safety. They specifically advise against sharing identifying information. It's a community-driven approach to safety, relying on user responsibility and mutual respect.
That's a smart approach. It puts the onus on the users to protect themselves while fostering a sense of responsibility within the community. It's a delicate balance, though. How does the platform handle potentially harmful content?
That's something I'm not entirely sure about. The information available doesn't explicitly detail their moderation policies, something that could be improved upon, to be honest. More transparency on that front would be beneficial.
Agreed. Transparency is key, especially in a community that's already vulnerable. But overall, Tech4T seems like a valuable resource for the trans and gender nonconforming community. A simple, focused space for connection and support.
Precisely. It's a testament to the power of community and the importance of creating safe and inclusive spaces online. And, the minimalist design is a breath of fresh air in the often overwhelming world of social media. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into T4T. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the surprisingly perilous world of files. The article we're discussing, Files Are Fraught with Peril, exposes the hidden complexities and potential for data corruption lurking beneath the seemingly simple act of writing to a file. Get ready for a roller coaster ride through the file system.
I'm all ears. I always assumed file I/O was pretty straightforward. What's the core issue this article highlights?
The core issue is that file I/O, while seemingly simple, is actually incredibly complex and prone to errors. Even experienced developers, working with robust systems like databases and version control, frequently make mistakes that lead to data corruption. It's not just about the file API itself, but the entire stack. The API, the file system, and the underlying disk all present significant challenges.
Wow, that's a pretty sweeping statement. Can you give me a specific example of how this complexity manifests?
Absolutely. Let's take a simple example. Overwriting part of a file. You might think a simple write syscall would suffice, but it's not atomic. A crash during the write could leave the file partially overwritten, leading to corruption. The article walks through a step-by-step process of how to make this atomic, involving undo logs, checksums, and multiple fsync calls, even on seemingly reliable file systems like ext4. It's mind-boggling.
So even with all those precautions, it's still not foolproof? That's scary.
Precisely. The article shows that even with careful implementation, there are still potential failure points. Different file system modes, like data equals journal, data equals ordered, and data equals writeback in ext4, have vastly different behaviors, making it incredibly difficult to write truly portable, safe code. The documentation is often unclear, and even experts struggle to get it right. It's a real mess.
I see. So the article mentions a study that analyzed several pieces of software, including databases and version control systems. What were the findings?
The study found that every single piece of software tested, except for SQLite in one specific mode, had at least one bug related to file I/O. This highlights just how difficult it is to get this right, even for highly skilled developers working on well-tested software. It's not a matter of incompetence. It's a fundamental challenge inherent in the system.
That's astonishing. What about the file system itself? Aren't those supposed to be robust?
Not entirely. The article discusses studies showing that file systems frequently drop errors, especially in the past. While things have improved, there are still code paths where errors are silently ignored, leading to data corruption. Even the seemingly reliable fsync call, intended to flush data to disk, can fail silently in some cases, resulting in unrecoverable data loss. It's a nightmare.
So it's not just the API, it's the file system too? What about the disks themselves?
Yes, the disks. The article points out that the error rates reported by disk manufacturers are often far too optimistic. Observed error rates are significantly higher, sometimes millions of times higher, than what's claimed in datasheets. Even SSDs, often touted as immune to data corruption, are susceptible to errors, especially as they age. Power loss protection, while advertised, is often unreliable. It's a whole chain of potential failures.
This is incredibly depressing. Is there anything we can do to mitigate these risks?
The article suggests using databases instead of files whenever possible, especially for applications where data integrity is critical. SQLite is mentioned as a good lightweight option. It's not a perfect solution, but it offers a higher level of abstraction and built-in mechanisms for data protection. Also, understanding the limitations of the file system and the potential for errors is crucial. We need to be aware of the risks.
So basically, be aware of the inherent fragility of the entire system and use appropriate tools and techniques to mitigate the risks. It's not a simple problem with a simple solution.
Exactly. The article concludes by highlighting that large tech companies invest heavily in ensuring data reliability, but consumer software often lacks these safeguards. The economic incentives are different. It's a systemic problem that requires a multifaceted approach, including better software engineering practices, improved file system design, and perhaps even regulatory changes. It's a complex challenge, but one we need to address.
This has been a truly eye-opening discussion. Thanks for breaking down this complex topic. I'm definitely going to be thinking about file I/O differently from now on.
You're very welcome. And that's exactly the point. Remember, folks, files are fraught with peril. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day. And remember to always back up your data. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into enhancing vector search with Colbert re-ranking, a game-changer in information retrieval. It's all about squeezing every ounce of accuracy out of our search engines, folks.
Exactly. I'm buzzing with excitement. So the core problem is that traditional vector search, relying on sentence embeddings, loses crucial detail at the token level, right?
Precisely. Think of it like summarizing a whole novel with just one sentence. You lose the nuances, the plot twists, the character development. Colbert changes that by using token-level multivectors. It's like having a detailed character sketch for every word, capturing the context beautifully.
So instead of one big vector representing the whole sentence, we have a bunch of smaller vectors, one for each token? That's a massive increase in data though, isn't it?
You bet. That's the trade-off. More computing power and storage are needed. But the accuracy gains are substantial. The article highlights how Colbert uses maxsim during query time, comparing the query's token vectors to the documents, maximizing the similarity score at the token level.
I see. So to handle the computational cost, they propose a hybrid approach, using fast sentence-level search for initial retrieval, followed by a Colbert re-rank to refine the results. Clever.
Absolutely brilliant. It's like a two-stage rocket. The first stage gets you close, and the second stage delivers pinpoint accuracy. This approach leverages the speed of approximate nearest neighbor search, with the precision of Colbert's multi-vector comparison.
And it's not just text. The article mentions kernel poly and kernel QN, which extend this approach to image retrieval, bypassing the need for OCR. That's a huge leap forward in multimodal search.
Indeed. It's a testament to the power and flexibility of the multi-vector approach. Imagine searching a database of images and text simultaneously, getting highly relevant results regardless of the modality. The future is multimodal.
The blog post then dives into a practical implementation using PostgreSQL and the vector chord extension. They show how to create a table to store both sentence and token embeddings, using Colbert to generate the token embeddings. It's quite detailed, with code snippets for indexing and querying.
Yes, and the code examples are incredibly helpful. They even demonstrate how to create a custom PostgreSQL function for the maxsim calculation, which is crucial for the re-ranking step. It's a complete, hands-on tutorial.
They also present some impressive evaluation results on BEIR datasets, showing significant improvements in NDCG at 1.0 after re-ranking. This isn't just theoretical, it's demonstrably effective. But I did wonder about the scalability of this approach for truly massive datasets. Even with the two-stage approach, the re-ranking step could still be computationally expensive, right?
That's a valid concern. While the hybrid approach mitigates the problem, scaling to truly massive datasets will likely require further optimizations. They mention future work on integrating full-text search with Colbert re-rank, which could further improve performance. And they're also working on a PostgreSQL BM25 extension, which is exciting.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area of research, and this blog post provides a great overview of a promising technique. The combination of efficient approximate nearest neighbor search and the accuracy of Colbert re-ranking seems like a powerful combination.
It truly is. And remember, listeners, all the code and benchmark details are available on GitHub, so go check it out, experiment, and let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into Bunster, a fascinating project that compiles shell scripts into static binaries. It's pretty cool, right?
Absolutely. Static binaries are a game changer for portability and deployment. But compiling shell scripts? That sounds ambitious. What's the core idea behind Bunster?
Essentially, Bunster acts as a shell-to-Go transpiler. It takes your bash script, translates it into Go code, and then compiles that Go code into a native binary. This bypasses the need for a shell interpreter at runtime, leading to significant performance improvements and enhanced security.
So it's not just wrapping the script, it's actually translating the logic into a different language? That's a much more sophisticated approach than simple wrappers. What are the performance gains like?
Exactly. The performance boost is substantial because you're executing native machine code instead of interpreting the script line by line. Think of it like the difference between running a compiled C program versus running a Python script. A huge leap in speed. Plus, the resulting binary is self-contained, making distribution a breeze.
I see. Interesting. But what about compatibility? Does it support all Bash features? And what about other shells like ZSH or Fish?
Currently, Bunster primarily focuses on Bash compatibility. They're aiming for broader shell support in future versions, but for now, it's Bash-centric. They're also planning to add some really interesting features, like a module system, which is something shell scripting sorely lacks. Imagine being able to import and reuse shell script libraries.
That would be a massive improvement. A module system would really elevate shell scripting to a whole new level. What about security? How does compiling to a static binary improve security?
Good question. Static binaries reduce the attack surface. Since there's no interpreter involved, there's less opportunity for vulnerabilities related to the shell itself or its environment. Plus, the resulting binary is much harder to reverse engineer than a plain shell script.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's faster, more portable, more secure, and potentially more organized with the planned module system. It sounds almost too good to be true. What's the catch? Is it still in early development?
Yes, it's still in its early stages. Not all Bash features are fully supported yet, and there might be some edge cases where things don't work perfectly. But the project is actively developed, and they're following semantic versioning, so you can track progress easily. The current version is 0.7.0, and they're aiming for a 1.0 release soon.
That's good to know. So it's a promising project with a clear roadmap. Where can people learn more and contribute?
Definitely. You can find all the details on their GitHub page. It's got a comprehensive README, documentation, and even a contribution guide. They're actively encouraging community involvement, which is fantastic to see. They even have a dedicated section on security vulnerabilities, encouraging responsible disclosure.
Excellent. This sounds like a project to keep an eye on. Thanks for highlighting Bunster. It's a really innovative approach to shell scripting.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of LungArch 64, a custom ISA from Lungsan in China. It's a really interesting architecture, and we're going to explore some of its unique features.
I'm excited. I've heard whispers about LungArch 64, but haven't had a chance to really dig into the details. What makes it stand out from other ISAs?
Well, for starters, it's a custom design, which is pretty rare these days. And, unlike many ISAs, the vector extensions, LSX and LSAX, 128-bit and 256-bit respectively, are incredibly well documented, thanks to the reverse engineering efforts of Jiaji Chen. Less than / person 1 greater than. Less than person 1 greater than.
That's amazing. Reverse engineering a whole vector instruction set. That's dedication. So what are some of the key highlights you found particularly interesting?
Oh, there are so many. The conditional branching based on vector elements being 0 or non-zero is really elegant. It's similar to SSE's PTEST, but much more granular. And the bit manipulation instructions, set, reset, toggle, are just plain cool. You don't often see that level of fine-grained control at the vector level. Less than / person 1 greater than. Less than person 1 greater than.
I see. That's a significant improvement over having to use more complex workarounds. What about other unique features?
Absolutely. The 128-bit arithmetic is a standout. Many ISAs lack native support for that. And the ability to select any 64-bit subword from a 128-bit word is incredibly useful. Plus, the instructions for calculating absolute values of differences and sums of absolute values are really handy for certain algorithms. Less than / person 1 greater than. Less than person 1 greater than.
Those are all very practical features. It sounds like they've really thought about the needs of developers. What about some of the more unusual or less common instructions?
Ah, yes. The widening addition is quite unique. Adding even or odd elements of a given width to produce a wider result is a clever optimization. And the horizontal integer scanning, which finds the first negative number and returns its index, is quite sophisticated. Less than / person 1 greater than. Less than person 1 greater than.
Wow, that horizontal scanning sounds powerful. It could significantly speed up certain search algorithms. What about the logical operations? Are they standard fare, or is there anything special there?
The logical operations are pretty comprehensive. They include all the usual suspects, AND, OR, XOR, but also AND not OR, and OR not, which are less common but very useful. And the bit select operation is a nice touch. Less than / person 1 greater than, less than person 1 greater than.
It's impressive how many features they've packed in. Does it have any weaknesses? Anything you found lacking?
Well, the lack of ternary logic is a bit of a missed opportunity, I think. But overall, the instruction set is remarkably complete and well designed. The immediate values used for indexing and range specification are a bit limiting, but it's a trade-off for performance. Less than / person 1 greater than, less than person 1 greater than.
A fair point. It's always a balancing act between flexibility and performance. So overall, what's your take on LungArch 64?
I'm incredibly impressed. It's a well-designed ISA with many unique and powerful features. The community support, especially with the reverse engineered documentation, is also a huge plus. It's definitely an ISA to watch. Less than / person 1 greater than. Less than person 1 greater than.
I completely agree. Thanks for this insightful overview. It's been a fascinating discussion.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of LungArch 64. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the world of e-bike conversions with Drew Vidyut's bolt-on kit. Pretty exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've been seeing a lot of interest in e-bike conversions lately. What makes Drew Vidyut's kit stand out?
Well, it's marketed as a bolt-on kit, meaning it's designed for relatively easy installation. They claim it works on various bike types. Mountain bikes, road bikes, even kids' bikes. That's a pretty broad appeal.
That's a big claim. How easy is bolt-on really? I'm picturing a weekend project, but I'm sure there's more to it than just bolting things on.
You're right, it's probably not that simple. The website highlights simple installation, but I'd imagine some mechanical aptitude is needed. They do have images showing the kit components and a few installation steps, but it's not a detailed tutorial.
Right, I see. So it's not a completely plug-and-play solution. But the fact that they cater to different bike types is impressive. What about the charging aspect? The website mentions recharge anywhere, anytime. Is that realistic?
That's a bit of marketing hype, I think. While it's likely portable, anywhere, anytime suggests unlimited range and charging options, which isn't realistic for any e-bike kit. They do show images of what looks like a fairly standard battery pack, so I'd expect it to have limitations.
Good point. So let's talk about the Swadeshi DVECK aspect. What does that mean?
Swadeshi generally refers to something made in India, so it's a way of emphasizing that the kit is domestically produced, which could appeal to buyers who prioritize supporting local businesses.
Makes sense. And what about their business model? They seem to be targeting a wide range of customers, from individual buyers to bulk purchasers and even overseas importers.
Exactly. They've got separate contact information for business inquiries, overseas inquiries, retail queries, even social media and PR, and even investors. They're clearly aiming for significant market penetration.
It's an ambitious strategy. I wonder about their after-sales service and support. That's often a crucial factor with these kinds of products.
That's a very valid point. The website doesn't explicitly detail their support structure, which is a bit of a concern. Hopefully they have a robust system in place.
Definitely. Overall, though, it seems like Drew Vidyut is offering a potentially interesting e-bike conversion kit. The broad appeal and focus on domestic production are strong points.
Agreed. The ease of installation and the range of compatible bikes are key selling points. However, potential buyers should carefully consider the practicalities of installation, charging limitations, and the availability of after-sale support before making a purchase. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion informative. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into TMSU, a fascinating command line tool for tagging files. It's not just about tagging, it's about creating a whole new virtual file system based on those tags. Isn't that cool?
Totally cool. So it's like a supercharged tagging system, right? How does it actually work? Does it modify the original files?
Nope, no file modification whatsoever. TMSU keeps its own database. Think of it as adding a layer on top of your existing files. You tag your files, and TMSU builds a virtual file system reflecting those tags. You can mount this virtual file system and access your files through that tag-based view. It's completely non-destructive.
That's brilliant. So how do you actually tag files? I'm picturing some complex interface.
Actually, it's incredibly simple. You use the TMSU tag command. For example, TMSU tag summer.mp3, music big jazz mp3 tags, summer.mp3 with those 3 tags. It even tells you if you create a new tag, which is handy for spotting typos. And you can batch tag files too.
Oh, I see. Batch tagging. What about fixing typos? I mean, we all make them.
Good point. The TMSU merge command is your friend there. If you accidentally typed Tysic instead of music, you just use TMSU merge Tysic music and it fixes it. Simple and elegant.
I like it. What about more complex tagging, like adding values to tags?
You got it. You can do that too. For instance, TMSU tag spring.mp3 year equals 2003 adds a year tag with the value 2003. This opens up some powerful querying options.
Powerful querying, you say? How does that work?
The TMSU files command is your key. You can search using tags. TMSU files MP3 lists all MP3 files. TMSU files MP3 Big Jazz lists MP3 files that also have the Big Jazz tag. It uses implicit AND logic, but you can use explicit AND, or, and, not operators, even parentheses, for complex queries. It's incredibly flexible.
Wow, that's impressive. And you can even query based on tag values, like the year?
Precisely. TMSU files year equals 2010 gets you all files tagged with year equals 2010. Or you could get all music from the 2000s. With TMSU files, music in year greater than equals 2000 in year. Pretty neat, huh?
Extremely neat. But what about accessing these tagged files from other applications? The command line is great, but...
That's where the virtual file system comes in. You mount it using TMSU mount, and then you can access your files through a directory structure reflecting your tags. It's like having a custom-built file browser based on your tags. It's revolutionary.
Revolutionary is right. So, you can use any application to access these files through the mounted file system?
Exactly. The files in the virtual file system are symbolic links to the original files, so you can open them with any program you like. It's beautifully integrated.
This is amazing. I'm sold. One last question. What about managing tags within the virtual file system itself?
You can create new tags by creating directories under the tags directory. Remove tags from files by deleting the symbolic link. Delete unused tags by removing empty directories. Even delete used tags with a recursive delete. It's all there, within the virtual file system itself.
This is truly a game changer. Thanks for explaining TMSU.
My pleasure. For more details, check out the TMSU wiki on GitHub. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into South Korea's recent brush with authoritarianism and how its vibrant democracy fought back. It's a fascinating case study, isn't it?
Absolutely. The speed with which the attempted martial law declaration was overturned is remarkable. It really highlights the strength of South Korea's democratic institutions, especially considering the initial shock and disbelief.
Exactly. President Yoon's late-night announcement completely blindsided almost everyone. Many initially thought it was a hoax, given the lack of any real threat to public safety. Oh my. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the article emphasizes the near-universal digital connectivity in South Korea. Over 90% use social media platforms like KakaoTalk, which facilitated rapid mobilization and information sharing. It was like a real-time, nationwide alert system.
Precisely. That digital infrastructure, combined with a strong civic duty ingrained through education and historical context, remember, many still recall the fight for democracy, created a perfect storm of resistance. It wasn't just about technology. It was about a collective memory and shared commitment.
And the legacy of past struggles against authoritarian rule, right? The article mentions the networks of contention built in the 1980s, those social and organizational connections that facilitate collective action. Those networks clearly remain active and effective.
Absolutely. These weren't just historical lessons. They were living, breathing networks ready to spring into action. The speed of the response, from attempted coup to nullification in just a few hours, is a testament to that.
But the article also points out some worrying trends. Yoon's rhetoric, framing the opposition as pro-North anti-state forces, is concerning. It's a tactic straight out of the Cold War playbook, and it seems to have deepened political polarization.
You're right. That's a critical point. The defense minister's subsequent resignation and arrest, along with the ruling party's defense of Yoon, highlight a serious constitutional struggle. It's not just about one president. It's about the very foundations of South Korean democracy.
The article draws parallels to the 2016 protests against Park Geun-hye. Both instances involved citizens mobilizing against presidential overreach, but the speed of the response in this case is striking. It suggests that the lessons learned over decades have strengthened South Korea's democratic guardrails.
Indeed, the rapid mobilization wasn't just about spontaneous outrage. It was a coordinated effort involving various groups, including the powerful Korean Confederation of Trade Unions, KCTU. Their threat of a general strike added significant economic pressure.
The KCTU's potential strike is a huge deal, given South Korea's economic importance. It shows how deeply democratic values are embedded in the political culture. Even powerful economic actors are willing to challenge executive overreach.
Precisely. It's a fascinating interplay of economic and political power. The article also highlights the role of the Democratic Party of Korea, DP, its close ties to various organizations, and its use of historical narratives to build moral authority. But it also acknowledges the DP's own vulnerabilities and internal challenges.
The article concludes by noting that while South Korea's democratic foundations and mobilized citizenry seem strong, the underlying tensions, polarization, weakening trust in institutions, mirror challenges faced by democracies globally. This event is a test of whether South Korea can overcome these challenges.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that even robust democracies are vulnerable. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether this incident strengthens South Korea's democratic resilience or exposes its vulnerabilities to the broader crisis of polarization. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a quirky blog post, London's Most Central Sheep, a delightful exploration of London's city farms. It's surprisingly technical.
A sheep census in London? That's unexpected. I'm intrigued. What's the methodology behind this, fascinating investigation?
The author, a diamond geezer, meticulously determines the most central sheep based on proximity to Trafalgar Square. He cleverly eliminates cuddly toys and temporary flocks, focusing solely on permanent residents of London's city farms. Brilliant.
So it's all about geographical centrality? Interesting. Does he use any specific software or tools for this geographical analysis?
Not explicitly mentioned. It seems to be more of a manual process, using a map and his own observations. He even mentions creating his own map, using a list of London's city farms from a website. Ingenious!
I see. And what about the sheep themselves? Are they, special breeds or something?
Oh, absolutely. He details the breeds Shetland, Herdwick, even a rare breed called Castlemilk Murits, A mix of Shetland, Sow, Manx, and Wiltshire Horn. He even gives some sheep names, like Daffodil and Beatrix. Adorable!
Wow. So it's not just about location, but also about the sheep's characteristics. It's a multifaceted study. Does he conclude anything beyond identifying the most central sheep?
Well, he identifies several of the most central sheep, actually, ranking them. He also highlights the differences between the city farms, comparing Vauxhall City Farm's more cramped and pungent environment with the more spacious Spitalfield City Farm. Fascinating comparison.
So it's a bit of a social commentary as well on the different city farms. I wonder if he considered using GIS software for a more precise analysis. It could have provided a more robust and repeatable methodology.
That's a valid point. A GIS approach would definitely add a layer of scientific rigor. But the charm of the blog post lies in its informal and anecdotal approach. It's more of a personal journey of discovery than a formal scientific study. I think that's what makes it so endearing.
You're right. It's a fun read, a delightful blend of observation, humor, and a touch of sheep-centric geography. It's a unique perspective on London.
Exactly. And it's a testament to the unexpected discoveries one can make when exploring the seemingly mundane. A truly delightful read. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this unusual yet captivating journey into the world of London's most central sheep. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating exposé on the contractors managing a Gaza checkpoint. It's a real whopper. The story centers around Safe Reach Solutions, a seemingly innocuous company. But the investigation reveals a much more complex picture.
Right, and it's not just any checkpoint, it's in Gaza. The stakes are incredibly high. So what's the big reveal? Is it about security concerns or something else entirely?
Exactly. The big reveal is that Safe Reach Solutions, one of the two U.S.-based contractors selected, appears to be a shell company. A shell company! It's linked to Two Ocean Trust, a Wyoming-based generational wealth management firm. Think of it as a corporate smokescreen.
Wow, a shell company operating a Gaza checkpoint? That's unsettling. What's the evidence connecting Safe Reach Solutions and Two Ocean Trust?
The evidence is pretty compelling. They share the same address in Jackson, Wyoming. The registered agent for Safe Reach Solutions is Two Ocean Trust itself. And the agent is a lawyer, James H. Cundiff, who also has public affiliations with Two Ocean Trust. It's all very intertwined. And the timing is suspicious. The Safe Reach Solutions website was registered just one day before the company itself.
1 day? That's incredibly suspicious. And what about Two Ocean Trust's response to all this? Did they offer any comment?
Not really. The head of private clients, Chris Norwine, refused to comment, saying no one at the firm would speak on the matter. That's a pretty strong indication of something to hide, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a classic case of no comment, meaning guilty as charged. But there's another contractor involved, right? What about them?
Yes. The other contractor is UG Solutions, run by a former U.S. Special Forces soldier, Jameson Gavoni. Now this guy has an interesting backstory. He's also the founder of Alcohol Armor, a hangover cure company. Their origin story is colorful, to say the least. They claim to have developed the product while undercover in Nicaragua, heavily drinking to maintain their cover.
Undercover in Nicaragua and developing a hangover cure? That's a wild origin story. But how does that relate to the Gaza checkpoint? Is there a connection?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The connection isn't explicitly stated, but the juxtaposition is striking. It highlights the opaque nature of these private contractors and the lack of transparency surrounding their operations. It raises questions about accountability and the potential for conflicts of interest. It's a whole can of worms.
Absolutely. The whole situation screams of a need for greater transparency and oversight in the contracting process, especially when it involves such sensitive operations. The lack of response from both companies is deeply concerning.
You're right. The lack of transparency from Safe Reach Solutions, particularly given their website's claim of commitment to transparency, is particularly damning. And the fact that Two Ocean Trust, a wealth management firm, is seemingly involved in this operation through a shell company, raises serious ethical questions. This whole situation needs further investigation.
Definitely. This is a story that deserves much more attention. It highlights the complexities and potential risks involved in outsourcing such critical operations to private contractors. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bites and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bites and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating paper on compiler fuzzing within continuous integration, specifically focusing on the Daphne compiler. It's a really exciting area.
Absolutely. Compiler fuzzing sounds intense. What's the core idea behind this CompFuzz CI framework they've developed?
The main idea is to integrate fuzz testing directly into the continuous integration CI pipeline for the Daphne compiler. Instead of running fuzzing campaigns sporadically, they run short, focused fuzzing sessions for every pull request. This is brilliant because it catches bugs immediately, while the developers who introduced them are still actively working on the code.
That's a smart approach. But I imagine there were challenges. The paper mentions several, right? Like, how long should you fuzz for each pull request?
Exactly. Finding the right balance is crucial. Fuzzing too long bogs down the CI process, but too short a run might miss important bugs. They found a good compromise. A 30-minute, 10-instance parallel fuzzing session seems to be quite effective, based on their experiments. They also had to deal with deduplicating bugs, avoiding duplicates, and making sure fuzzing complements existing regression tests. It's a complex interplay.
And how did they handle deduplication? That's a huge problem in any bug-finding system.
Yeah, big one. For crashes and code generation errors, they used error messages as signatures. But for miscompilation bugs, where the generated code runs but produces incorrect results, it's much trickier. They ended up using the commit that introduced the bug as a signature, which is a conservative but practical approach.
I see. Interesting. So what about bisection? Pinpointing the exact commit that introduced a bug is crucial, especially in a large project like Daphne.
Right. Bisection proved to be a real challenge. The Daphne compiler is constantly evolving, with interface changes and updates to dependencies. Their initial approach using git bisect needed significant adaptation to handle these changes. They had to make their interestingness tests version-aware, accounting for changes in command line interfaces, default flag values, and interactions with downstream tools. It was a major hurdle.
That makes sense. So did they achieve their goal? Did CompFuzz CI find any real bugs?
Oh yes. They found 3 previously unknown bugs in the Daphne compiler, all confirmed by the developers. One was a Java miscompilation with nested arrays, another a crash due to sequence comparison, and a third a parser error. That's a pretty good success rate for a new system.
Impressive. Did their controlled experiment confirm the effectiveness of their approach?
Their controlled experiment, simulating CompFuzz CI on a range of historic Daphne commits, showed that it could reliably find some bugs, especially within that 30-minute time frame. However, they also found that some bugs, particularly those with complex triggers or involving recursion, were harder to detect. This highlights the limitations of the current fuzzer, fuzz.aid, and suggests areas for improvement.
So it's not a silver bullet, but a valuable tool. What were some of the key lessons learned?
Well, bisection is hard in practice, even with tools like git bisect. Fuzzing too early in a project's lifecycle can be counterproductive, leading to many false positives. And finally, careful coordination between fuzzing and existing regression testing is essential to avoid duplicate reports. They solve this by running fuzzing only after regression tests pass.
That's valuable insight for anyone considering implementing compiler fuzzing in their CI pipeline. It seems like a powerful technique, but it requires careful planning and adaptation.
Absolutely. The paper provides a really detailed account of their experience, highlighting both the successes and challenges. It's a must-read for anyone working with compilers or interested in improving software testing methodologies. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating exploration of a glitchy, AI-generated Minecraft knockoff called Oasis Minecraft. It's less a faithful recreation and more a bizarre, dreamlike experience.
A glitchy Minecraft? Sounds intriguing. What makes it so different from the original?
Well, the core issue is the lack of object permanence. Imagine this. You see a mountain, you look away, and poof! It's gone. The landscape constantly shifts and morphs, making exploration a surreal, unpredictable journey.
That's unsettling, but also kind of cool. Is it just the landscape that's unstable, or are other game mechanics affected too?
Oh, it's far more pervasive than that. The game lacks a proper physics engine. You can have half blocks, quarter blocks, even blocks that are lumpy and soft. You might dig a hole, but somehow not fall into it. It's wonderfully chaotic.
So it's essentially a Minecraft simulator that's constantly hallucinating? I'm picturing a world where birch bark spontaneously appears in a wooden cave, then transforms into a snowy floor, then a desert. All within seconds.
Exactly. The AI seems to prioritize visual coherence over consistency. It tries to make things look right, even if it means breaking its own rules. The author even mentions how staring at a specific area forces the algorithm to generate new frames based on accumulating noise, leading to increasingly bizarre transformations.
And what about the items and inventory? Does that behave normally?
Absolutely not. The inventory is a mess. Items appear and disappear randomly. You might find a pickaxe, use it for a few seconds, and then it vanishes. Crafting is equally unreliable. You might try to make a crafting table and end up with a stick instead. It's a constant state of flux.
So it sounds like the game's goals are equally unpredictable. Does it even have a coherent objective?
The game lists goals like kill a zombie or explode a creeper. But achieving them seems almost impossible due to the unstable environment. The author mentions that the AI seems to randomly adjust the player's health, often decreasing it when near flame-colored areas, adding another layer of unpredictable challenge.
It sounds like a frustrating yet strangely compelling experience. The author seems to find a certain charm in this chaotic unpredictability. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. The author describes it as a glitchy, dreamlike landscape, and I think that's a perfect description. The constant shifting and morphing of the environment creates a unique, almost artistic experience. It's not a functional Minecraft clone, but it's something else entirely, a testament to the unpredictable nature of generative AI.
It's fascinating how a broken system can lead to such unexpected creativity. It makes you wonder what other unexpected results we might see from pushing the boundaries of AI.
Precisely. The developers themselves acknowledge the glitches and suggest improvements with more data and a larger model. But the author raises a valid point. Perfecting this would just result in a more expensive version of the original Minecraft. The current, glitchy version might be the most interesting iteration.
A truly unique take on game development. Thanks for sharing this unusual story with us.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating post about a development philosophy, writing code without bugs. It's a provocative idea, isn't it? Intriguing, to say the least.
Absolutely. The author argues against the two extremes in software development, the ship fast mentality and the test everything approach. He suggests both lead to slowdowns, high costs, and burnout. Right?
Exactly. He makes a compelling case that neither extreme is optimal. The ship fast approach leads to unmaintainable codebases quickly, while the test everything approach, while seemingly thorough, can be incredibly time-consuming and ultimately unproductive. It's a false dichotomy.
He highlights a key point. In many large companies, the focus is solely on shipping new features, neglecting bug fixes. This leads to messy code bases, like some Google apps, he suggests. A valid criticism, I think.
Yeah. He argues that the solution isn't about finding a balance between these extremes, but rather about cultivating a mindset of writing bug-free code from the outset. He uses a personal anecdote about mastering Russian to illustrate this point, a fascinating analogy.
I see. So it's about building a subconscious skill, a kind of muscle memory for writing clean, robust code. It's not about rigorous processes, but about a fundamental shift in approach. Interesting.
Precisely. He emphasizes the importance of thinking a few steps ahead in design, prioritizing developer ergonomics, and investing time up front to create a solid foundation. He even mentions discarding things that slow down development, like React server components in some cases. A bold statement.
But isn't that a bit idealistic? Surely some bugs are inevitable, right? I mean, even with the best intentions, unforeseen issues can arise. A fair point, I suppose.
That's a good challenge. The author doesn't claim complete bug elimination, but rather a significant reduction through proactive, mindful coding. He acknowledges that even he struggles with some complex problems, but he invests the extra time to ensure robustness. It's about striving for excellence.
He quantifies his approach as being 10% on the ship fast side. A small concession to speed, but with the potential for massive long-term gains by avoiding costly rewrites and delays. A smart compromise.
Exactly. The long-term benefits of preventing bugs far outweigh the short-term cost of careful planning and development. It's about building a sustainable, high-quality product, not just shipping features quickly. A sustainable approach.
So the core message is about cultivating a mindset of meticulous coding, prioritizing long-term maintainability and quality over short-term gains. It's a call for more conscious, thoughtful programming. A powerful message.
Absolutely. And that's why this post resonates so strongly. It's a refreshing perspective on a common challenge in software development. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this discussion. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating article highlighting Siri's less than stellar performance. It's titled, Siri is Super Dumb and Getting Dumber. The author, through rigorous testing, reveals some shocking results.
Wow, that's a bold title. I'm intrigued. What kind of testing are we talking about here?
Right. So the core of the article revolves around a comprehensive test conducted by Paul Kafasis. He asked Siri, who won Super Bowl, for every Super Bowl from 1 to 60. The results? Absolutely abysmal. Siri only got about 34% correct.
34%? That's alarming. Even a random guess would do better than that, right? What were some of the more egregious errors?
Oh, there were many. Siri credited the Philadelphia Eagles with an astonishing 33 Super Bowl wins. They only have one. And in one instance, it got a stunning 15 Super Bowls in a row wrong.
15 in a row? That's incredible. So it's not just a few isolated incidents, it's a systemic problem. Did the author compare Siri to other AI assistants?
Absolutely. The author tested ChatGPT, Kasugi, DuckDuckGo, and Google, and they all performed significantly better. In fact, they all got the answers correct, even for Super Bowls 59 and 60, which haven't even happened yet.
That's a huge difference. It seems Siri is struggling even with straightforward factual questions. Did the author explore any possible reasons for this?
Well, one interesting aspect is that the author also tested Siri on a much more obscure question. Who won the 2004 North Dakota High School Boys State Basketball Championship? Even this seemingly niche question was answered correctly by Kasugi and ChatGPT. But Siri, even with its ChatGPT integration, failed spectacularly, giving different wrong answers each time.
That's concerning. So even with the supposed help of ChatGPT, Siri is still failing. It sounds like the integration isn't working as intended. Is there any explanation for this?
The author suggests that the integration between Siri and ChatGPT is flawed. It's like having a tutor who knows the answers, but the student still fails the test. It's a massive regression from the older version of Siri, which, while not perfect, at least acknowledged its lack of knowledge and provided helpful links.
That's a really insightful point. It highlights the potential pitfalls of simply integrating AI without proper oversight and testing. It's not just about having the technology. It's about how it's implemented and integrated. Did the article offer any solutions or conclusions?
The article doesn't offer concrete solutions, but it strongly implies that Apple needs to seriously reevaluate its approach to Siri's development. The author even suggests a partnership with Google to leverage Google's Gemini AI, which is a pretty bold suggestion given the rivalry between the two companies. The overall tone is one of disappointment and concern about the direction of Siri's development.
It's a compelling read, indeed. It really underscores the importance of thorough testing and quality control in AI development. Thanks for summarizing this insightful article.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bites and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bites and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into Anthropic's exciting new API feature, Citations. It's a game changer for verifiable AI outputs. You know?
Absolutely. I've been following this closely. So the core idea is to make Claude's responses more trustworthy by directly citing the sources it uses, right? No more guessing where the information comes from.
Precisely. Previously, getting Claude to cite sources involved complex prompt engineering, a real headache for developers. Now, it's built right in. You just add your source documents, and Claude automatically cites the relevant passages.
That's a massive improvement in efficiency. And what about accuracy? How reliable are these citations?
Anthropic's internal evaluations show a significant boost in recall accuracy, up to 15%. They're claiming it outperforms most custom implementations, which is a pretty bold statement. But their results seem impressive.
15% is huge. That's a serious leap forward in terms of verifiable AI. What kind of applications are we talking about here?
Oh, tons. Think document summarization, getting concise summaries with source links for every point, or complex Q&A across massive datasets, like financial statements, with each answer meticulously sourced. Even customer support systems could benefit immensely, referencing manuals and tickets directly.
I see. So it's not just about accuracy, it's about accountability and transparency. This is crucial for building trust in AI systems, especially in sensitive fields like finance and law.
Exactly. And the implementation is pretty slick. The API handles the document processing, chunking sentences, and integrating them with the user's query. It even works with PDFs and plain text. No need for extra file storage or complex integrations.
That's elegant. So it's seamlessly integrated with their existing messages, API? That's smart design. But what about the cost? Does this new feature add a significant price tag?
It uses their standard token-based pricing. They do mention that processing documents might use more input tokens, but you don't pay for the quoted text itself in the output. So it's a reasonable trade-off.
That's good to know. And the customer spotlights, Thomson Reuters and Index, are really compelling. They're seeing significant improvements in accuracy and efficiency. Index, for example, went from 10% hallucination to 0%.
Yeah, those case studies are strong evidence of the real-world impact. It's not just theoretical improvements. It's demonstrably making a difference for these companies. It's available for Claude 3.5 Sonnet and Haiku, and the documentation is readily available.
This is a really significant development. It addresses a major challenge in AI, building trust and ensuring verifiability. It's a big step towards more responsible and reliable AI systems.
Absolutely. It's a powerful tool for developers looking to build more trustworthy and accountable AI applications. And that's a wrap for today's Tech Bites and News. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of compression algorithms. It's a topic brimming with clever techniques and surprising efficiency.
I'm really excited. So what are the main types of compression we'll be discussing?
Primarily, we'll focus on lossless compression, where the original data is perfectly reconstructible. We'll touch upon lossy methods like JPEG briefly, but the core of our discussion will be algorithms that preserve all information. Think of it as squeezing a sponge. You want to get it as small as possible, but you still need to be able to restore it to its original shape and size.
Got it. And what are some of the key algorithms we'll be exploring?
We'll cover several, starting with the simpler ones like run-length encoding, RLE, which is great for consecutive repeating data. Then we'll move on to more sophisticated methods. Lempel-Ziv, LZ, Huffman coding, and the algorithms built upon them, such as deflate, used in gzip, zip, and PNG, snappy, LZ4, and ZSTD. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses in terms of compression ratio and speed.
So deflate, that's the workhorse behind gzip, right? I've always wondered how it works.
Exactly. Deflate cleverly combines LZ77 which identifies repeating sequences and replaces them with pointers, and Huffman coding, which assigns shorter codes to more frequent symbols. It's a beautiful example of synergy. The author mentions a hilarious anecdote about the developers experiencing cabin fever while working on the bit-level hacks. It really highlights the complexity involved.
That's amazing. And what about Snappy? I've heard it's incredibly fast.
Snappy prioritizes speed over maximum compression. It uses a simpler approach than deflate, focusing on finding the most recent matching sequence rather than maintaining a complex chain of potential matches. This makes it blazing fast, but at the cost of a slightly lower compression ratio. The author even mentions its previous name, Zippy, which brings back some fun memories.
Interesting. So LZ4 and ZSTD, are they similar to Snappy?
Yes, they're also LZ-based, but they offer improvements. LZ4 is faster than Snappy with comparable compression ratios, and ZSTD, its successor, aims for a balance between speed and compression ratio, often outperforming deflate in both aspects. It's a real game changer.
Wow, that's impressive. The article also mentions arithmetic coding and FSE. Are those crucial for understanding ZSTD?
Yes, they are. Huffman coding, while efficient, has limitations. Arithmetic coding addresses these by assigning bit lengths proportionally to symbol probabilities, but it's computationally expensive. FSE, finite state entropy, is a more efficient alternative used in ZSTD, offering a good compromise between compression ratio and speed.
So it's all about finding the right balance between speed and compression, right? Different algorithms excel in different scenarios.
Precisely. The choice of algorithm depends on the specific application. If speed is paramount, Snappy or LZ4 might be preferred. If you need maximum compression, deflate or ZSTD are better choices. And ZSTD's ability to use trained dictionaries is a significant advantage for compressing specific data types. It's a fascinating interplay of trade-offs.
I see. This has been a really insightful discussion. Thanks for breaking down these complex algorithms in such a clear and engaging way.
My pleasure. It's a truly fascinating field, and I hope this gives our listeners a better understanding of the magic behind data compression. Remember to check out the original article for even more details. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating post about a user's experience migrating away from the BCA Chef's file system. It's a compelling story, really highlighting the complexities of open-source software development and user expectations. Let's jump right in.
I'm eager to hear this. The title mentions Steinar H. Gunderson's experience, right? What prompted this migration away from BCA Chefs? Was it just performance issues?
Not solely performance, although he did mention some significant issues there. The core reason, as Steinar explains, is a loss of trust in BCA Chef's future. He points to the fact that it's developed by a single person, Kent Overstreet, and the challenges that brings. The burden of maintaining a whole file system alone is immense.
I see. So it wasn't just bugs, but also the process of dealing with those bugs? That's a crucial point, often overlooked.
Exactly. Steinar details several bugs, from catastrophic data loss to performance hiccups, and issues with tools like FSCK and Umount. But the real kicker is the way these issues were handled. Or rather, not handled. He describes a frustrating experience reporting bugs, facing what he perceived as hostility rather than constructive feedback.
So it sounds like a communication breakdown? Did he mention specific examples of this hostility?
Yeah, he mentions being flamed for using Debian and for not actively engaging in Kent's battles against Debian's Rust packaging policies. It seems like reporting a bug wasn't enough. He was expected to become an advocate for the developer's preferred approach. That's a pretty high bar for a user, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's a bit disheartening. It sounds like the developer prioritized his own agenda over addressing user concerns. That's a classic case of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, isn't it? What was the final straw for Steinar?
Well, the combination of unresolved bugs, the difficult bug reporting process, and the lack of trust in the long-term maintainability of the project led him to switch back to XFS. He acknowledges that he's losing some compression benefits, but he prioritizes stability and reliability. He even mentions that SSDs are now cheap enough to make the extra space less of a concern.
So it's a cost-benefit analysis, weighing the advantages of BCA chefs against the risks and frustrations. A pragmatic decision, I'd say, this. But it's a cautionary tale for other developers too, isn't it? The importance of community engagement and responsive bug handling can't be overstated.
Precisely. Steinar isn't necessarily condemning BCA chefs. He acknowledges its potential. But he emphasizes that the current development approach is unsustainable. It's a reminder that, even with innovative technology, a healthy community and collaborative development are crucial for long-term success. And that's a lesson we can all learn from.
Absolutely. A great discussion point and a valuable insight into the realities of open source development. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating discovery: hidden Morse code within Mike Oldfield's iconic album, Tubular Bells. It's a real mind-bender.
Wow, that sounds incredible. I've heard of hidden messages in music, but Morse code embedded in a classic album? That's a new one for me. So how was this even discovered?
It all started with Gerhard Kircher, an Austrian enthusiast, using a spectrum analyzer. He spotted a peculiar 16 kHz signal running consistently throughout the album, a signal that didn't belong to the music itself.
A 16 kHz signal? That's pretty low frequency for audio, isn't it? What made him think it was Morse code?
Exactly. It's within the range of human hearing, but not typically found in music recordings. Further investigation using software like Audacity and SDR Hash revealed the signal was indeed Morse code, transmitted from the Rugby radio station, about 37 miles from the recording studio. Think of it, a massive radio transmitter, broadcasting its call sign, accidentally captured on a recording.
37 miles is quite a distance, but the transmitter was incredibly powerful, right? Hundreds of kilowatts, you said?
Yes, precisely. The Rugby station was a behemoth, part of the Imperial wireless chain, later used for submarine communication. Its sheer power, combined with the narrow bandwidth of the Morse code signal, allowed it to be picked up by something in the studio, possibly a microphone, a guitar pickup, or even the recording equipment itself. It's a testament to the power of those old transmitters.
So the Morse code was decoded. What did it say? I'm guessing something like GBR, the call sign for rugby?
Almost. It decoded to VVVGBR. GBR is indeed the call sign, but the VVV is still a bit of a mystery. It's likely a generic prefix, but it adds to the intrigue. The fact that the signal was picked up and decoded is astonishing.
Amazing! This is a fantastic example of how seemingly unrelated things can intersect in unexpected ways. It's like a historical accident preserved in music history.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. The Rugby station's connection to the Y service during World War II, which intercepted Enigma messages, creates a fascinating link to Alan Turing and the code-breaking efforts. It's a truly remarkable chain of events. It's a story that blends music, technology, history, and a bit of mystery.
This is a great story, a perfect blend of technology and history. It's amazing how a seemingly simple Morse code signal can lead to such a rich narrative. I'm definitely going to listen to Tubular Bells with a new ear now.
Absolutely. And who knows what other secrets might be hidden in other recordings from the Manor Studio. This discovery opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden world of Morse code within Tubular Bells. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a truly shocking story from the Los Angeles Times. The Santa Ynez Reservoir, built to protect Pacific Palisades, was inexplicably empty during the recent devastating wildfire. Unbelievable.
Right? I read the article, and it's infuriating. A reservoir specifically designed for fire protection, sitting there, bone dry, while homes burned. What was the main reason for its emptiness?
Well, it all started in January 2024. A tear was discovered in the reservoir's floating cover. A cover installed in 2012 to meet federal regulations. A simple tear.
A tear? So they couldn't fix a tear? That's insane.
Not so fast. The DWP's internal emails show that they initially planned minor repairs within 48 hours, but the tear worsened. Major repairs needed specialized skills and contracting, which took time. The process, took longer than expected.
But a year? A whole year to fix a tear? That's beyond negligence. What about the water itself? Did they just let it all evaporate?
No, they didn't let it evaporate. They actually drained it over 2 months. The reason? Draining the reservoir after heavy rains would have caused significant erosion. A difficult decision, I suppose. But the State Water Resources Control Board wasn't on board with keeping it operational with the tear. They cited contamination risks.
So the state essentially forced them to drain a reservoir meant for fire protection, leaving it empty for almost a year? This is unbelievable. What about the repair process itself?
The repair contract was awarded in November 2024 to the original installers for around $130,000, a bit over budget, but still, not an astronomical sum. The DWP claims the delay was due to the city's competitive bidding process.
Right, the competitive bidding process. That's a classic bureaucratic excuse. But the real kicker is the impact, right? Homes were lost because of this.
Absolutely. Peggy Holter, a resident, said she felt safe because of the reservoir. Her building survived the first night, but burned down later due to diminished water pressure. Heartbreaking. There are lawsuits, investigations by the governor and mayor, and, understandably, a lot of anger.
And the DWP CEO's scheduled presentation to the city council was blocked by the city attorney due to the lawsuits. Talk about damage control. This whole situation is a perfect storm of bureaucratic incompetence and tragic consequences.
It really is. The article highlights that even water systems experts say the Santa Ana winds made the fire nearly impossible to control. But the lack of the reservoir undoubtedly exacerbated the situation. It's a complex issue, with many layers. The residents are left to rebuild, and the city faces a reckoning.
A reckoning indeed. This story underscores the critical need for better communication, planning, and resource management, especially in disaster preparedness, is a wake-up call.
Absolutely. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow with more news. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the woes of Docker Hub, as experienced by the Linux server team. It's a story of shifting sands, frustrating bureaucracy, and the challenges of relying on a single registry. Let's get started.
Right, so Linux Server, a major player in the Docker image world, has been having some serious issues with Docker Hub. The core problem seems to be the lack of a smooth renewal process for their Docker-sponsored open source, DSOS, program membership, right?
Exactly. They've been using Docker Hub for years, mirroring to other registries like GitLab and Quay.io for backup. But the initial concerns started back in 2020 with Docker's announcements about purging old images and introducing pull limits for unpaid accounts. That really shook things up.
I see. So they proactively moved to GitHub Container Registry, GHCR, as their primary registry, and even created lscr.io as a front end, but still relied on Docker Hub for a significant portion of their users. But the DSOS program was supposed to alleviate those concerns, wasn't it?
Yeah, the DSOS program offered protection from pull limits and image purging. But the renewal process? A complete nightmare. They describe it as streamlined, but it's anything but. They had to reapply from scratch, and after a month of silence, their DSOS status expired. Now, no response from Docker, even after multiple emails to their supposed contact address.
Unbelievable! So they're now back to a free account, facing potential pull limits and image purges again. That's a huge risk for their users, and a massive inconvenience for them. It's a bit shocking that a company like Docker, so central to the container ecosystem, would have such a broken process.
It is, and it highlights a critical dependency issue. They're not planning to abandon Docker Hub completely. That would impact too many users. But this experience has definitely made them reconsider their reliance on a single registry. They're exploring their options, and will keep their users informed. It's a cautionary tale for everyone.
Absolutely. It underscores the importance of diversification and having robust backup plans. Relying solely on a single provider, especially one with such opaque processes, is risky business. It's a good reminder to everyone to have a multi-registry strategy. Just in case.
Precisely. And the lack of communication from Docker is equally concerning. No response, not even an automated one acknowledging receipt of their renewal request. That's just poor customer service, especially for a company that relies on the open source community. It's a real shame.
It really is. It makes you wonder about the internal processes at Docker. Are they overwhelmed? Is there a systemic issue? Or is it just a case of them not prioritizing open source contributors as much as they should? It's a worrying sign.
All valid questions. The whole situation is a stark reminder of the importance of having multiple options and not putting all your eggs in one basket. The Linux server team's experience is a valuable lesson for everyone in the Docker community. We'll keep you updated on their progress. Thanks for listening to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating results of humanity's last exam, a groundbreaking AI benchmark created by Scale AI and the Center for AI Safety. It's a real nail-biter.
Wow, that sounds intense. So what exactly was this exam all about? Was it like a Turing test on steroids?
Exactly. It aimed to push the boundaries of current AI capabilities by testing their reasoning and knowledge across various fields. Math, humanities, natural sciences, you name it. The goal wasn't just to see if AIs could answer questions, but if they could answer expert-level questions, the kind that would stump even the most brilliant humans.
I see. So how did the AI models perform? Did they ace it?
Not quite. The results were humbling. Even the most advanced models, like GPT-4, Claude, Gemini, they only managed to answer less than 10% of the questions correctly.
Less than 10%? That's surprising. I mean, AI is advancing so rapidly, I expected better. What kind of questions were they asked?
That's the thing. These weren't your average trivia questions. They were incredibly complex, multi-step problems requiring deep understanding and nuanced reasoning. One example from ecology involved a hummingbird's unique bone structure and asked how many paired tendons it supported. It's mind-boggling stuff.
That's incredibly specific. So what does this all mean? Is this a setback for AI development?
Not necessarily a setback, but definitely a reality check. It highlights that while AI has made incredible strides, there's still a long way to go before achieving true human-level reasoning. The researchers emphasize that this isn't the end, but a crucial benchmark to guide future research. The dataset is being made public, so other researchers can build upon this work.
That's a great point. Making the data public is key for collaborative progress. It sounds like this humanity's last exam is more of a milestone than a final judgment. What about the methodology? How did they create such a challenging exam?
It was a massive undertaking. They crowdsourced questions from nearly 1,000 experts across 50 countries. They started with over 70,000 questions, whittled them down to 13,000 for review, and finally landed on a set of 3,000 for the final exam. The process itself is fascinating. It really shows the scale of effort involved.
Amazing! So what's next? What are the implications of these findings?
Well, it's a call for more research into AI's limitations. It shows us where the gaps are, and that's crucial for directing future development. It also highlights the importance of collaboration and transparency in AI research. This wasn't just a test. It was a global effort to understand the current state of AI. It's a really exciting time for the field.
Absolutely. It sounds like a significant step forward in understanding and improving AI. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating piece by Bert Hubert about shifting cyber norms, specifically how Microsoft's email security practices are unexpectedly impacting single-use sign-on links. It's a real eye-opener. Intriguing, right?
Absolutely. I've seen this happening myself, those single-use links failing unexpectedly. So, what's the core issue? Is it just Microsoft, or is this a broader problem?
The core issue is that Microsoft, and likely other email security scanners, are now not only checking links in emails, but also executing the JavaScript within those links, including POST requests. This is a big deal. Historically, POST requests were considered to have side effects. They change the system state. Think of submitting a form, creating an account, or confirming an email. It's not something you should do casually.
Right, GET requests are idempotent. They don't change anything. Posts are not. So Microsoft is essentially preemptively using these links, potentially consuming single-use tokens before the intended user even gets to them.
Exactly. And the scary part is, they're doing this silently. There was no announcement, no warning. Hubert points out that this breaks even sophisticated single-use sign-on systems. He gives a great example with a screenshot showing a Microsoft IP address making a POST request to his site before the actual user even gets a chance. It's a stealthy change to the established norms.
So it's not just a minor inconvenience. It's a fundamental shift in how we design authentication systems. It seems like a significant security risk, too. What's Microsoft's justification?
Well, the charitable interpretation is that they're doing this for security purposes, proactively checking links for malicious content. But even if that's the intention, the method is problematic. They're essentially executing arbitrary code on their servers, which opens up potential vulnerabilities. And the lack of transparency is a major concern.
I see. That's a valid point. So what can developers do to mitigate this? Is there a workaround?
Hubert suggests that developers need to design their systems to handle multiple attempts at sign-on or confirmation. Essentially, your software needs to be resilient to these preemptive actions by security scanners. Adding CAPTCHA is one option, but that's not ideal. It's annoying for users and might even get you blacklisted by Microsoft. It's a tough situation.
It really is. It highlights the power imbalance between large tech companies and developers. Microsoft, as a gatekeeper, can essentially change the rules of the game without much accountability. It's a bit unsettling.
Absolutely. Hubert brings up the EU Digital Markets Act, which aims to hold these gatekeepers accountable. It's a step in the right direction, but it's still early days. We need more transparency and better communication from these companies about how their security measures impact developers and users. This isn't just a technical issue, it's a governance issue.
It's a fascinating and concerning development. Thanks for breaking it down for us. This really makes you think about the evolving landscape of online security and the power dynamics at play.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of cloud virtualization, specifically exploring the inner workings of Red Hat, AWS Firecracker, UbiCloud, and AWS Nitro architectures. It's a complex topic, but we'll break it down step by step. Get ready.
I'm eager to hear this. The evolution of virtualization is mind-blowing. So, what's the core challenge this blog post addresses?
Exactly. The core issue is that understanding modern VM technology is incredibly difficult. It's not just about one component. It's a complex interplay of dozens of Linux projects, all working together to achieve operational and security isolation across CPU, memory, disk, and network. Think of it like a highly intricate clock mechanism. Each gear needs to mesh perfectly.
Right, a multi-dimensional puzzle. So how does the blog approach this complexity?
The authors meticulously analyzed various architectures, creating reference designs for Red Hat, AWS Firecracker, UbiCloud, and AWS Nitro. They essentially reverse-engineered these systems, breaking down the complex interactions into digestible pieces. It's a fantastic resource for anyone wanting a deeper understanding.
Brilliant. Let's start with Red Hat. What's their approach?
Red Hat uses a combination of KVM, kernel-based virtual machine, QEMU, quick emulator, and libvirt. KVM handles the core virtualization within the kernel, QEMU emulates hardware devices, and libvirt acts as a jailer, enhancing security by restricting QEMU's access to system resources. They also leverage cgroups for operational isolation and NF tables for network security.
So QEMU is the virtual machine monitor, VMM, in this case, right? And libvirt adds a crucial security layer. Interesting.
Precisely. Now let's contrast that with AWS Firecracker. It's a much more lightweight approach, optimized for serverless workloads. They still use KVM, but replace QEMU with their own custom VMM written in Rust, a much safer language.
Rust's memory safety is a huge advantage in this context, reducing the attack surface. What other key differences are there?
Firecracker uses a simpler approach to resource management. implementing its own rate limiting instead of relying on C groups. It also prioritizes security by using block devices instead of file system pass-through, minimizing the complexity and potential vulnerabilities. And instead of libvirt, it uses a custom jailer with seccomp BPF for syscall filtering.
Fascinating. So UbiCloud's architecture is similar to Firecracker, but with some key distinctions?
Yes, UbiCloud uses KVM and a custom VMM called Cloud Hypervisor, CH, also written in Rust, and heavily inspired by Firecracker. However, CH is more general purpose, supporting both Linux and Windows, though Windows support is still untested. They also use SSH for communication between the control and data planes, unlike Firecracker's REST API. The security model is very similar, though.
I see. And finally, AWS Nitro? That's a completely different beast, isn't it?
Absolutely. AWS Nitro represents a significant shift towards hardware offloading. Instead of relying heavily on software-based virtualization, they use specialized hardware cards for network and storage, dramatically improving performance and reducing the load on the host's CPU. This allows them to run a much simpler hypervisor.
So it's a trade-off. Increased hardware complexity for significantly improved performance and efficiency. A very interesting evolution.
Exactly. The blog post concludes by highlighting the remarkable progress in both hardware and open-source software that has made these sophisticated virtualization architectures possible. From dual-core processors to 64-plus core servers, and the rise of Virtio for device virtualization, the landscape has changed dramatically.
It's a testament to the power of open source and the relentless drive for innovation in the cloud computing space. A truly impressive journey.
Absolutely. And that's a wrap for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cloud virtualization. We hope you found it as insightful as we did. Goodbye, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of Clive Sinclair and his revolutionary microcomputers, a true British behemoth in the world of tech. Let's get started.
I'm really excited about this. Sinclair's impact is undeniable, but I'm curious, what were his early influences? Was he always destined for greatness in electronics?
Absolutely. His early life shows a clear pattern: a natural aptitude for mathematics, a fascination with tinkering, and a distinct lack of interest in traditional schooling. Building a radio wristwatch at 10? A rocket from a bicycle pump? That's not your average kid. He was a self-starter, always experimenting, a true innovator.
So, he skipped university. Bold move. How did that early career path shape his later success?
It's crucial to understand that his early career in writing and editing for electronics publications gave him invaluable industry knowledge and connections. His semiconductor survey, for example, made him a prominent figure. But even that wasn't enough. He craved more, the thrill of creation, not just documentation. That's what led him to found Sinclair Radionics.
Right, and that's where the real story begins, with the Sinclair microamplifier. But then came the slimline radio, a brilliant example of his cost-cutting genius, using rejected computer transistors. Ingenious.
Precisely. That slimline radio was a huge success, demonstrating his knack for finding innovative solutions to reduce costs without sacrificing quality. It set the stage for his later triumphs, showing that he could create high-quality products at incredibly low prices. A masterclass in business strategy.
Then came the pocket calculator, the Sinclair Executive. That was a game-changer, wasn't it? Amazingly small.
Absolutely. The Executive was revolutionary. Its tiny size, achieved through clever power management techniques, was a testament to Sinclair's obsession with miniaturization. It was the first true pocket calculator, and it was a massive commercial success. A true technological marvel.
But not everything was smooth sailing. The Black Watch, for instance, was a spectacular failure, wasn't it? What happened there?
Ah, yes, the Black Watch. A cautionary tale. The cost-cutting measures, while successful in the calculator, backfired spectacularly here. The combination of a fragile design, unreliable components, and difficult repairs led to massive returns and significant financial losses. It almost sunk the company, a stark reminder that innovation doesn't always equal success.
It seems like Sinclair learned from his mistakes, though. The subsequent success of the microquartz clock shows that he was able to adapt and improve. Resilience is key.
Exactly. He took the lessons learned from the Black Watch and applied them to the microquartz, turning a failure into a success. That's the mark of a true entrepreneur, the ability to learn from setbacks and move forward. A testament to his determination.
And then came the home computers, starting with the ZX80 and ZX81. These were truly groundbreaking machines, weren't they? Affordable computing for the masses.
Unquestionably. The ZX80 and ZX81 were revolutionary. They brought computing power to the masses at an unprecedented price point. Their simplicity, while limiting, also made them accessible to a wider audience. A democratization of technology.
But the limitations, like the small RAM and the screen blanking, must have been frustrating for users. A trade-off for affordability?
You're right. There were limitations, but the low price and the innovative features, like the single-key basic keywords, made up for it. It was a trade-off, but one that many were willing to make to get their hands on a personal computer. A bold strategy that paid off.
The ZX Spectrum, though, that was a real leap forward. Color graphics, a better keyboard, a true icon.
The ZX Spectrum was a phenomenal success, arguably Sinclair's masterpiece. It addressed many of the shortcomings of its predecessors, while still maintaining an affordable price. The color graphics, in particular, were a huge draw. A cultural phenomenon.
And the impact on the gaming industry in the UK was enormous. Hundreds of games were developed for the Spectrum, creating a whole generation of programmers and gamers. A lasting legacy.
Absolutely. The Spectrum's success fueled a boom in the UK games industry, creating thousands of jobs and leaving an indelible mark on British culture, a true testament to its influence.
But even Sinclair's success wasn't without its later failures, like the QL. What went wrong there?
The QL is a fascinating case study in how even the most innovative companies can stumble. A combination of buggy software, unreliable hardware, and poor marketing contributed to its downfall. It was a more ambitious project, and it simply didn't meet expectations. A cautionary tale of over-ambition.
So ultimately, Sinclair's story is one of incredible innovation, remarkable success, and some significant setbacks. A complex and compelling narrative.
Precisely. A roller coaster ride of triumphs and failures, but one that undeniably shaped the landscape of personal computing. A true legend. And that's all the time we have for today's episode of Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a surprisingly awesome crossover. George R.R. Martin, author of A Song of Ice and Fire, co-authored a physics paper. Can you believe it? It's mind-blowing.
Totally unbelievable. I mean, from Westeros to Lagrangian formulations? What's the paper about? Spill the details.
It's all about the Wildcards universe, a shared world anthology series that Martin edits. It's an alternate history where an alien virus, the Wildcard virus, causes some people to die, some to get nasty mutations, jokers, and a lucky few to develop superpowers, aces. Think of it as a really dark, gritty superhero story with a hard sci-fi twist.
So, a physics paper on a fictional virus? How does that even work? Sounds like a fun challenge.
Exactly. A physicist, Ian Tregillis, was fascinated by the 9-to-1 distribution of deaths, jokers, and aces. He wondered if he could create a mathematical model to explain it. It's a really clever approach.
And did he succeed? I'm curious about the math behind this. Did they use, like, some crazy quantum physics?
Not quite quantum physics, but it's pretty sophisticated. They used a multivariate probability distribution and a Lagrangian formulation to model the virus's effects. They even accounted for cryptos, people with undetectable mutations, and joker aces, who have both mutations and superpowers. It's incredibly detailed.
Wow, that's impressive. So it's not just a simple probability calculation? It's a full-blown dynamical system model? I'm impressed by their approach.
Precisely. They translated the fictional problem into a real-world physics problem. The paper's goal is pedagogical, though. Tregillis suggests it's more suitable for advanced students, not beginners. It's a great example of how fictional worlds can inspire real scientific inquiry.
That's a really cool idea. I wonder if this will inspire other authors to collaborate with scientists on similar projects. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Absolutely. It shows that the boundaries between fiction and science aren't as rigid as we might think. And, it's a great reminder that even fantasy can have a surprising amount of underlying structure. It's a fascinating blend of creativity and rigorous analysis.
I agree. It's a testament to the power of interdisciplinary collaboration. This is definitely a story that deserves more attention.
Indeed. And who knows, maybe this will even inspire George R.R. Martin to finally finish Winds of Winter. Fingers crossed. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this unexpected dive into the intersection of fantasy and physics. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the daily roundup of Tech Bytes and News. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.